All right, today it is roundup time. Woo. We're going to take a look at multiple games of different genres, so there may be something in here for everybody, which is the goal, right? Give everybody a little something to look at. But today we're taking a look, sorry, I didn't mean to clap right in your ear, but today we're taking a look at 4 different games/expansions. Number 1, A Message from the Stars from All Play. Number 2, Things in Rings, also from All Play. Number 3, Wonders Mundo expansion. Mundo, Greek or Latin for world. World. www.aol.com. And last but not least, the Foundations of Rome Roads of Fortune expansion. Now, some of these you've had for a little bit, some of them you haven't got your hands on yet, and this is why we do these roundups, because sometimes things slip through our fingers or through our sight or through our grasp of what is even out there, and that's why I like to do some of these roundups to show you what is out there that we've been playing recently that we really like. Typically in a roundup, I don't do stuff that we don't like. I will every once in a while, especially when a box from Tom shows up and he's like, hey, here's some games. Thank you very much. But let's start with A Message from the Stars, or you will not feel smart playing this game. It's kind of how it plays. So let's take a look at how A Message from the Stars plays, and we'll come back up, talk final thoughts right now.
All right, this is A Message from the Stars. Now, technically, I'm showing you both sides of the board right now. This stuff, when there's a purple one for the alien, would be for the alien character. You're going to take the letter cards and you're going to put them into these locations. So you can't see it on here, but you can see it on here. So trust letters, that would be my E, F, P. And depending on the types of letters they are, whether they're green, black, or red, depends on the difficulty of those letters to use. Essentially what's going to happen is before that happens, both the human players and the alien players will take one of these cards, they'll roll the dice and stick these in here. So we're trying to code the word dangerous, emojis, and pets. So this would be dating is dangerous. The best way to express affection is through emojis. If all else fails, humans love pets. So that's what you're doing. You're creating a symbol, a word you're sending over. You're playing the Amy Adams movie Arrival, essentially.
And you tell them, you go back and tell them that I know.
This would be for the players who are the scientists. This would be theirs as well, because they're also going to code words back to the alien. So what's going to happen is the alien will come up with a word trying to get them to say the words here, but you're also trying to figure out which letters are the cipher. So you're trying to figure out 3 letters here, 2 letters here, 1 letter here. The 3 letters here, the trust letters, they will add 1 to the total. Now I'll show you what I mean by that in just a moment. The amplify letters will multiply times 2. And then lastly, the suspicion letter will make the entire number negative. So let's just take a word for dangerous. We'll say the word risky, right? That's a terrible word for my clues, but let's try a different one then. Dangerous. Let's try emojis. Oh my gosh, these are hard. So like emojis. I might use the word cell phone. So the alien would take, or the humans would take a card that they write on. Where the heck are those cards? Right here in the middle. The humans would then take, or the alien first would write the word cell phone on here, right? Now we're going to work the clues up based on what we have, okay? So we have cell phone. You're going to check for all your trust letters that are present. So we have an E and a P. So we'd go 1, 2, 3. Even if the letter appears twice, it counts each time. So 1, 2, 3 to the total. Now, we check over there. There's no amplifiers, which means this does not multiply times 2. So we're still at 3. Is there an L? There is. So the total for this word would be -3. You hand this to the other person. In the first round, they're going to feel like, what in the world? There's no help here. You'll then code a word back to the alien, trying to make them guess one of yours. And again, like I said, each team will have a different word, a set of words they're trying to get them to guess. So let's just say they have the clue mustache. You may write the word beard. So let's just see what the word beard would come up as in this example. Now, it wouldn't be random like this with these letters, but let's just see what it would happen. A-R-D. I'll tell you what, let's do beards just so I can show you what happens here. So we've got an E, that's a 1. There's an S is the next thing, which multiplies this by 2. So it would be 2 would be the total. You give this back to the humans, they work out what they can do from that. You'll go back and forth 4 times each. At the end of it, hopefully the humans will know what each letter is and also what your clues are. That's how you play A Message from the Stars.
All right, played this on the cruise this January, loved it, but felt stupid. Played it again when we got our copy, and let me just tell you, unless you don't have the option, play as the alien first, and then it will help you understand how to play as the other players first. If you're playing for the first several times as just the other player and you're not great at logic, it's going to be tricky. If you think about it, this is a logic problem, not a word game. Now, the word part comes in because you do need to give clues that help the other people guess what your words are. Now, granted, what's great about this is you get to look at the set of cards and see, okay, well, it has to be this, it has to be this, it has to be this. So that part's a lot easier. It's the logic problem of figuring out, okay, wait a minute, 1 + 1 + 2 times, or 1 + 1 + 1 times 3, or times 2. Now it's a negative, so that means there's probably a trust, and an amplifier. It's wild. It's ridiculous. But it is a ridiculously engagingly fun game, but you will feel dumb the first couple times unless you're just really good at it, and then you're like, Bryan, you're just a dummy. Why do you have problems with that?
How dare you?
That could be true. But this game it's really well produced, and we have the promos from All Play where it's got the nice little board. But even if you don't have that, the stand alone is really nice, where you have the whole like stick your cards in and you can score it easily. Just don't mess up. Don't accidentally put 2 green ones when you can't have 2 green ones. The rules are set so it actually helps the other people be able to guess based on process of elimination and the types of letters that you can actually have. So I'm not saying someone did that.
You sure about that?
But I did that. So that is a message from the stars. Go pick this up. If you like a challenging puzzly game, this is definitely for you. All right, coming up next is Rings, Things in Rings. This is a game all about puzzly, one person's the facilitator while the rest of the people try to guess and play against each other. It looks like it was drawn by a certain doctor. Love the way this game looks. And we also have the promo with the extra movie stuff, which is just tremendous little nods to pop culture movies and stuff like that. So let's take a look at how Things in Rings works, and we'll come back up, talk final thoughts.
All right, this is Things in Rings. All right, so you have rules. One person's going to be the facilitator. You're going to pick a rule per string you're playing with. So we got a yellow, a red, and a blue. So we're going to take one from yellow, one from red, and one from blue. Now, blue is going to be more an attribute of the item, like would hurt if dropped on you. Words are going to be things like ends with a consonant Y, or a consonant or Y, and then red is going to be you expect to find it in an office. So what people are going to do is they're going to have 5 cards. Now, first, the facilitator is going to get 5 cards and choose 3 of them to go ahead and place out there, knowing the rules and placing them in a place that follows the rules. So, case in point, ends in a consonant or Y. Let's just say I had this hand of 5 cards here, slug, that ends in a consonant or Y. Soda would be found in an office. So, sorry, this would go here, this would go here, and a sword would go in none, actually. Well, it would go if it hurt if it fell on you. So, you'll then have 5 cards each as players, and you're going to try to place them out based on what you think each rule is. So if we place tire here, that would not be okay because it's not something that ends in a Y or consonant. It doesn't, typically it's not found in an office, and it would hurt if it fell on you, so I would move it over there to the correct place. You'll play this until someone runs out of cards, and for bragging rights, you can vote on what you think the rules are.
All right, so that is Things in Rings. First of all, the game looks adorable, right? I love the way this game looks, and you can adjust the difficulty depending on who you're playing with. So our daughters, we played with blue and yellow. Probably should have just played with blue, especially with Ella playing. But you can adjust it, and I really like playing it with all 3 rings because, okay, now this satisfies all 3. This satisfies just this one. This is none of them. I love that concept, right? And especially when you finally click and you get a rule and you're like, okay, I know what this rule is. I'm not sure on these. Let me try to play a little bit with this. That is a fun feeling when you're not the facilitator. You're actually playing the game. So having that experience is great. So if you like a good word puzzly game or a thinking logical problem that's a little easier than a message from the stars, definitely check out Things in Rings. I really, really enjoy this game, and it's a quick play. I guess technically if you had a bad clue giver or a facilitator, it could go on forever, but most likely that's not going to happen. So that's Things in Rings. Next up is our first expansion on today's roundup. Expansions. This is a game called World Wonders, right? Loved it. It was my game of the year, I believe, last year. And this is the Mundo expansion. It's a small expansion. It's a small box. And if you think about it, it doesn't add a ton. It does add some great screen printed wonders, including Stonehenge, which looks awesome. But what it does do is changes the game in a little bit that I really like. So let's take a look at what it does.
All right, so this is the World of Wonders Mundo expansion. You'll notice some new wonders here that look fantastic in screen printing, including Stonehenge, which is probably my favorite. Just looks awesome. Basically, this adds 2 types of things to it. Really, it adds basic wonders for the new wonders that you can add into the old box and just play it the original way, but it also adds these new Mundo cards, which you'll notice are pretty much the same here. You have to build by this, and buy another wonder. And then it says, if you're adjacent to a wonder, 2 or more, you get 3 points. If you're adjacent to nothing, you still get a point for it. So basically all these are conditional points. It shows how they work, and then the amount of rivers or whatever between there, you get multiple points. None of them are over 3, but it just adds a new twist on how to get points.
All right, so that's the Mundo expansion. Not a huge, like, oh my gosh, we've got to bolt on this thing that didn't really come in the first idea of the iteration of the game. What's cool about this is, yet again, changing scoring methods. I like a game when an expansion comes along and says, oh, you used to score like that, now you're scoring like this. Not that it completely changes it. You still score the old way, but you still have these new Mundo expansions where you can they have conditions to them, right? So it's, you can build it if you have this and this, but it scores more points if you do X, Y, and Z. I really like that because you can stack these points and get a whole lot of points out of doing this. Now, sometimes you're going to think in your mind, oh, okay, I'll have to do this because it's important to get those 3 points instead of those 2 points. And it ends up building a 21 square road, and you focus on that way too longer than you should. But I like the fact that they're conditional and they change kind of how you play and how you approach wonders. Now, what I really like too is there's a regular wonder card in there for each of these as well. So if you just wanted to include it in the wonder deck and play with these new wonders, the old style, you can, which I really like. I think that flexibility is such a cool idea. So World Wonders Mundo expansion, go get this. It is a must play. I'll never play without this. 100% will never play without this. Last but not least, Foundations of Rome, Roads of Fortune. So this is an expansion for the world's largest game. No, it's not really, but it takes up an entire Kallax shelf. Looking at you, Mosaic. Could have been a half a centimeter shorter, and it would have fit. Taking a look at Foundations of Rome, Roads of Fortune. This is it's a small expansion for a big game, but proportionately, the box size of the original, it means that this is kind of like the same proportionate size of World Wonders the Mundo expansion in the fact that it's a typical board game size box for some stuff that happens. Now, let's take a look at what it adds. We'll come back up and talk final thoughts.
All right, I'll back the camera up in just a moment. I just want to show you kind of how the new tray fits in here that I'm going to mention shortly because I've already shot the final thoughts. This is the expansion here, Roads of Fortune, because basically it comes with a whole new tray to replace the old one. So let's back that up, slide it out, and show you what it comes with in this expansion. Not a ton of modules. Now everything like your boards and stuff will still stow here. Not a ton of modules, but it does give alternates for the monuments, which is pretty cool. But this is what it adds right here. The main thing it adds, besides this tray to hold everything in that you already had one, but it replaces it, are these roads. Now there's a ton of roads here because based on which modules you played, this will tell you. So this is if you're playing monuments. If you're playing monuments, and they're double-sided. So if you're playing public objectives here, population tokens. So these are all different monuments that you're going to have. You're also going to start with 2 of these little tokens here that you can mark how you did on the monument. So you're going to put one at the north, the west, the south, and the east of each region. And then the only setup change is that if you get an edge location, you have to put it back at the beginning. Because the way this works is the person who has the most building squares adjacent to an edge has influence in that area, the north, the south, the east, or west. You then choose first what bonus you'd like to take. Now this would be take first player or gain a point. All players give you 2 coins or gain 2 points or gain 3 points. Now you only have 2 of these tokens, and yet you do this in the end of every scoring for the arrows. Plus you might have multiple that you've won. If you run out of those tokens, you can start to use your building tokens, which means you'll be limited to what you can do the next round potentially. It's not as bad in round 2 or in round 3 as it is in round 2, and obviously in round 3 you can just start slinging them out there because it doesn't matter. So that is what comes in Foundations of Rome, Roads of Fortune.
Now, if you've played Foundations of Rome a lot, you'll know there are a lot of modules that you just haven't got to yet. And maybe you have, but sometimes you're like, oh, let's just play the base game, or let's do player powers and monuments, right? What's really cool about this is it builds on that with these new roads. Basically, it's giving you something else to look forward to in your scoring. Okay, well, I want to build on the edge so that I can get the bonus for the north or the west or the south or the east or whatever. So I really like that aspect of it. What I also love is the foresight and forethought. Robert mentions this all the time about measuring and making sure stuff fits in the box. This new tray replaces your other tray and everything fits in this. Even if you have the sun drop and the metal coins and all that, everything fits in here from the original game so that now you can just keep your Foundations of Rome box and slide this one in on the side like the other one goes. And now all your new Roads of Fortune stuff fits in there as well. Now, is this a must play? I don't think it's not a must play, but it's not something where I was so excited about the changes it made to the game where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never not playing with this. If somebody has Foundations of Rome and they haven't punched Roads of Fortune yet, I'll be like, no, let's just play this, right? But if it's in there, I'm going to pick it up and play it because there's really no reason not to just add those 4 roads essentially on the corners of it, because it's so simple to add, right? But I also like that it's modular enough to where if you want to play with one of the expansions or the modules from the base game, you pick the roads that match that or the ones that can play with anything. To me, that's a really successful sign of a simple expansion, but it works backwards compatibly without having to say, well, if you play with this expansion, you can't play with this, right? I'm a big fan of, like, in Emerson's what was that game called with the 3 Spice Road and whatever. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about, Century. I like that all of them could be put together and you could play with everything. Games that go, well, if you're playing this expansion, we don't recommend playing this expansion. I'm like, watch me. And then I regret it later, of course. But I like that this is retrofitted to where you can play with any of the expansions, any of the modules, any of the stuff that's previously come out. And then also, there's no reason not to play with these because they don't change it enough. In fact, if anything, it makes it a little more choosy because you go, okay, well, I've already used my 2 markers. Now I'm getting down to the fact that I have to use my building tiles, which 3rd round, not a big deal, right? Even 2nd round, not a big deal because you probably have enough stuff out there that you can build over buildings. So get this if you're a fan of Foundations of Rome. Definitely, this is not you don't have to buy it. I definitely recommend if you love Foundations of Rome, if you have Foundations of Rome, go ahead and pick this up because it just adds enough to where it's a really fun little twist and wrinkle that makes it worth doing and changes a little bit, especially at higher player counts, because then it really gets to shine of who's going to take over that north, south, east, west border, right? So those are 4 games. That's A Message from the Stars, Things in Rings, Foundations of Rome, the Roads of Fortune expansion, and the World of Wonders Mundo expansion. So I am Bryan Drake here on the Dice Tower. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Instagram, whatever you want to call it, at Dice Tower Bryan. Until next time, we'll see you.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vassell.